You're listening to AI PRISM from Seoul Economic Daily.
It's Wednesday, May 13. I'd like to share some thoughts about corporate CEO. We are looking at a really critical mission for you today, navigating, 6 urgent, simultaneous decision points that are hitting across labor, supply chains, tech, and the macroeconomy.
Yeah, it's a lot all at once. And I mean, we should probably start with the immediate precedent risks, right? Because what's happening inside Samsung right now is, well, it's basically going to dictate the future for all Korean corporates.
Right, that OPI strike. Walk us through the numbers there, because the scale is it's massive.
It really is. So the National Samsung Electronics Union has this May 21 deadline. It's 36,000 members, and they're threatening a 30 trillion won, which is about 21.7 billion US dollars production risk.
Wow, $21.7 billion.
Yes, exactly. And they want a fixed 15% of operating profit as a guaranteed bonus. But management is flat out refusing. And it's not just about being stubborn. It's really about protecting their capital allocation.
Because if you lock in cyclical profits as a fixed wage cost, you drain your war chest right when you need it.
Spot on. If Samsung caves, that 15% fixed ratio instantly becomes the baseline expectation for every major employer.
The government could theoretically step in with an emergency adjustment order to stop it, right?
They could, yeah. But relying on state intervention just isn't a long-term strategy for survival.
Right. It's like having to rebuild a plane mid-flight, honestly. The pace of change required right now is just unnatural, which actually reminds me of the Samsung VD division.
Oh, yeah. The visual display division, that's a perfect example. The new president there, Lee Wanjin, he didn't even wait for a normal planning cycle. He issued a 2-week mandate, 2 weeks to completely pivot away from legacy hardware and jump into the Galaxy and AI ecosystem.
Wait, just 2 weeks? That's insane for a division that size.
It's a massive forcing mechanism. It really shows you that to survive this Chinese hardware competition, your decision point as a leader is that you have to aggressively accelerate your organizational change timelines.
Yeah, you absolutely have to. And, speaking of Chinese competition, let's look at the external shocks. Is this Trump-Xi summit in Beijing just diplomatic theater, or are we looking at actual supply chain disruptions here?
It's definitely not just theater. Scott Kennedy over at CSIS says we need to watch the Boeing 500 jet deal. If that goes through, it's a huge commercial signal for normalization.
Okay, so there is some real commercial substance there.
Yeah, but here's the scarier part for Korean corporates. Louis Vincent Gave at Gavcal Research brought up this potential swap scenario, basically trading Chinese rare earths for access to U.S. semiconductor equipment.
Wait, really? A direct swap like that? That would completely change the Korean supply chain implications.
Yeah, it would narrow the tech gap instantly. And notice how NVIDIA's Jensen Huang is totally absent from the U.S. delegation. That is a deliberate policy signal that AI chip constraints on China are permanent.
Which brings us to the semiconductor reality. The SOX, the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, is up, 70.56% year to date?
Right, that massive rally.
Yeah.
And that's all driven by this agent AI full-stack demand thesis. Everyone is buying into the immediate need for fully integrated AI hardware.
But how sustainable is that, really?
Well, Paul Tudor Jones is actually warning of a pretty severe correction in the next 1 to 2 years once manufacturing capacity finally catches up to the hype.
Oh, wow.
And underneath that rally, energy costs are quietly separating the winners from the losers. Fabless companies are beating foundries because the physical manufacturing is just getting hammered by energy inflation.
Right.
So your decision point here is you need to prepare your 18-month competitive positioning for sudden shifts in semiconductor equipment access and CapEx timing.
So it's not just about grabbing the hardwares, the AI deployment rules, and the macro costs, too. Jumping into the compliance side of AI, it's getting complicated fast.
Oh, absolutely. Professor Lee Suin has this XAI framework, Explainable AI. And the reality is, by 2026, explainability is a strict regulatory compliance requirement, not just a nice-to-have feature.
Right. The AI can't just be a black box anymore. You have to prove how it makes its decisions to the regulators.
Exactly. And building those compliant models takes elite talent. But Korea has this massive talent structure gap. Traditional, rigid corporate boards just can't attract the engineers needed to close that gap.
And you're trying to hire this elite talent while the macro reality is just punishing you. We're looking at the USD to KRW rate sitting at a painful 1,491 per US dollar.
It's brutal. And the 10-year government bond yield is stuck above 4%. Yoon Yela Sam at Merit Securities pointed out that Korean corporate bonds just offer limited appeal right now unless the government can signal some serious fiscal restraint.
So what's the move for the listener, the CEO, looking at these numbers? Because the 1 yen cross rate is also compressing, so you're losing that competitive signal against Japan, too.
Your immediate decision points are clear. You need to accelerate capital raises before financing gets worse, overhaul your rigid AI hiring practices, and review your FX hedging immediately.
Basically, everything is getting more expensive and more rigid all at once.
Yeah, exactly. The ultimate stress test for your leadership this year is how well you navigate that exact intersection. Expensive capital, rigid talent models, and sudden geopolitical supply shocks all hitting simultaneously.
That's today's AI PRISM Corporate CEO. This episode was produced with AI assistance based on Seoul Economic Daily reporting and reviewed by a human editor. AI PRISM is a WAN-IFRA award-winning series. We'll be back tomorrow.
You've been listening to AI PRISM from Seoul Economic Daily.